So to start us off today, I'd like to invite everybody to join me on a little exercise. On the count of 3, I want everybody to take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Take a deep breath in and out. And another deep breath in and out. Now, I like to do this for 2 reasons. The first, because it's a nice way for me to calm the butterflies on stage. But the second is because, yes, every first breath we take comes from the forest, from the trees, and from the green. But it's also a nice reminder that every second breath we take comes from the ocean. My name is Isabel. I'm 16 years old, the co-founder of Bye Bye Plastic Bags, and an environmental activist since the age of 10. I was born and raised on the island of Bali in a house 100 meters from the ocean. So as you can imagine, it's always had a huge influence over myself. And clearly it's had an impact on everyone if it contributes to over half of the oxygen we breathe. But not only that, studies have also shown that people are happier when they are near, surrounded by, or in the ocean. And so you can ask yourself the question now, if our oceans are so important to us, why do we treat them so badly? I'm sure we've all seen the pictures of beaches overflowing with plastic waste, and sadly, this is the harsh reality from my home island of Bali. No matter where you go, whether you're walking by a river, on the beach, in the mountains, on the side of the road, the plastic is always there. You cannot escape it. And I do recognize that this is not only an issue in Bali, it's a global problem. There's a fact that says that by the year 2050, there's going to be more plastic than fish in our oceans. That's in our lifetime. Now let that sink in. If we look at the numbers, about 80% of the plastic waste you find in the oceans actually come from land. And in Bali, currently only 5% of that waste is being recycled. And so 6 years ago, my sister, Malati, who could not be here today, and we asked ourselves the question, okay, what can we do to help solve this problem? And so after doing a little bit of research, we found out that 40 countries around the world at the time had taken their stance against plastic by saying no to the single-use plastic bag. And so in our 10 and 12-year-old minds at the time, we thought, hey, if they can do it, come on, Bali, we can do it too. And so we founded Bye Bye Plastic Bags, which today is an official NGO run by young people on the island of Bali to say no to single-use plastic bags. And through our 6 years of campaigning, it's been a crazy journey. I always like to think of Bye Bye Plastic Bags as a little bit of my life school, right? It's taught me things and skills that a normal textbook could have never been able to teach me. And some of these lessons I want to share here today. And the first one being, it's all about the team. Or as we like to use fancy words here, human capital, right? And this one we learned pretty early on. Yes, we did start at the beginning with just the 2 of us, my sister and I, but soon enough, Bye Bye Plastic Bags grew into a huge movement where locally today we have over 20 volunteers helping on a daily or weekly basis and up to 350 volunteers in our global teams. Which brings us to lesson number 2. Think outside the box. We constantly had to ask ourselves, okay, how can we overcome our challenges or obstacles in a creative way? How can we do things differently, uniquely, especially with the just do it mentality of young people? And so the story I like to attach to this is Bali's biggest cleanup. Now, at this point in our timeline, I think we were 3 years into campaigning, and we realized we were losing slowly the momentum of the people. And so during one of our team meetings, we had a discussion on how could we get everyone on the island involved again. And somebody raised their hand, and in a quiet voice, they said, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we organize Bali's biggest cleanup ever? And so within 6 weeks, we were able to organize the first one. But since then, for the past 3 years in February, we have been able to mobilize over 45,000 people in 325 different locations on the island and have collected over 135 tons of just plastic waste. Another story that we like to add to this lesson is mountain mamas. Now, we always get questions like, okay, if we're saying bye-bye to plastic bags, right? What alternatives are there to use? And so as the younger generation, we saw this as an opportunity to create Mountain Mamas, which is a social enterprise that empowers local women in the mountains of Bali to make alternative bags from pre-loved material. It's everything we love. But the thing that makes this enterprise so special is that we pay every woman individually for the bag that she makes, which works really well in the Balinese culture because it allows the women to take ownership over their own working hours as well as their own income. Now, after we purchase the bags from the women, we sell them at a higher retail price, and 50% of the profits actually go back into this community, not the women. Why? Because this ensures to create a better education, healthcare, and a better waste management system, which often lacks in rural and isolated communities in Bali. And so the system becomes a little bit circular, right? The only way to go. But of course, through our campaign, we have experienced many challenges, right? There's been many ups and many downs. One of them being that we are young people. And although we are seen as an inspiration, our age group is sometimes not taken very seriously. Sometimes this goes hand in hand with working with politicians. You know, we say it's a little bit like dancing with them. You take 3 steps forward and then 2 steps backwards, and the cycle starts all over again. But I think the most common and one of the biggest challenges we've had to face is the need to see a change in consumer behavior and producing. It's the need to see a change in mindset and creating the new norm, which has proven to be difficult in history. But I think as consumers, we all have the responsibility to ask ourselves 2 questions when buying a product. The first one is, where does it come from? And the second is, where does it go? And if you can't answer one of these 2 questions, the truth is you probably shouldn't buy the product. But these questions, of course, also go to the producers. They have to be aware and responsible about where their resources come from. And in my eyes, I think they have the most responsibility here. But does this mean that we can't produce anymore? No. And does this mean that we have to say no to all plastics? No. But I do believe that we can say no to those single-use items. I mean, it is 2019, right? We're seeing here at this meeting alone that the creativity, innovation, and technology is here to show that solutions are just around the corner. More and more, these bigger corporations are understanding the importance and the value of changing their sourcing and materials. Many years ago, the 3 R's were hot and to the point, right? Reduce, reuse, and recycle. But in today's climate, I think we have to add 2 new R's. The R of refuse, for example, saying no to single-use plastics, and the R of replace, once again, sourcing materials differently at the source of a production. And of course, lastly, personally, I have faced some challenges. Being the age of 16 and having started at the age of 10, it was sometimes hard to keep on going, right? But I think throughout it all, the support of our team has always been there, and so I cannot stress enough that you cannot do it alone. No matter how great of a leader you are or how great of an idea you have, you will always need the support of your team in order to move your idea into a reality. But I think all of these obstacles and all of these challenges has really led up to us learning lesson number 3, which is persistence and commitment are key. I think this was probably the most important lesson we could have learned. And I'm sure to all the parents in the room, it's probably the hardest lesson to teach. It's that no matter how hard it gets, you have to keep on going. You have to go the extra mile to make sure what you committed to actually happens and follows through. Now, after 6 years of campaigning with our internal team and various other organizations on Bali, we realized that this lesson really did pay off. Even through a change in leadership from the old governor to the new governor, we were able to stay persistent with our message of making Bali go plastic bag free. All of this hard work resulted in an announcement in December of 2018 of Bali going plastic bag free, which was finally implemented on June 23rd of an island-wide ban on plastic bags, straws, and styrofoam. Yes, we did it! We did it, and we could have not been more excited, and to have had the help and the support of the Indonesian and Balinese government, as you can see here, both the old and the current governor of Bali. But as young change makers, we believe that change happens in the classroom. We have spoken to over 50,000 students worldwide. And of course, speaking on stages like the UN, or today here at the World Economic Forum, and being recognized by Forbes and CNN have definitely been a few of our highlights as well. Through our years of campaigning, we have learned that we are not alone, right? Youth are rising everywhere, in every corner of the world. We are standing up for issues that are not a thing of the future, but are currently happening today, issues that are occurring as we speak. No matter what our passions are, whether it is climate change, the environment, the oceans, inequalities, human rights, dancing, arts, science, the list goes on. Whatever your passions are, we are seeing young people standing up for what they think is right and for what they believe in. Young people are demanding change because we realize that we don't have the luxury of time anymore to wait for someone else to make that difference. And we see this especially when we were 2 years into our campaign, when other young people heard about our story. They got inspired, and they reached out to us saying, hey, can we start up a Bye Bye Plastic Bags back where we come from? And so today, you can find us in over 45 different locations all across the world, all led by different young people, whether middle school, high school, or university students. And now you might be asking yourself, the question of what's next, right? Well, after this ban was in place, we know that just because the regulations are there and the policies are there, it does not mean that the work is done. It means that we have to work harder to ensure that these policies are really implemented and enforced into the community. But looking a little bit further down the line, our team is very excited to announce this as we have been working on it under wraps for a couple of years. But in the next 2 months, we are hoping to launch our next project, introducing Youthtopia, where we aim to create spaces, platforms, and a headquarter for young people to come together and connect. In Youthtopia, we believe that empowered young people accelerate change that can address and solve the current and relevant issues of today's world. It is very much inspired by the SDGs, and so it will not only encompass solutions to problems of the environment and plastics, but hopefully every world issue, as well as peer-to-peer learning. So we hope to connect those who want to become change makers, because we know that every young person can become a change maker, but not every young person knows how. And so we hope to give them the tools to grow their skills and to ignite their passions, and to bring those incredible young people alongside those who are already on the front lines of change, together to really create the solutions, to collaborate and to work together, because that is the only way that we can create real change. And I want to leave you on this note. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget that us kids may only be 25% of the world's population, but we are 100% of the future. Thank you.